All right, so moving on to the final segment, we're going to switch gears here from the NFL side of things. We're going to switch our attention over to baseball inside the MLB world. And I'll be sharing my biggest surprises in baseball in the American League and National League. And that's not all. I'm going to be sharing my biggest disappointments in the American League and National League at this particular point of the MLB season as well. So let's go ahead and start off with the biggest surprise in the American League this year. My pick is the Tampa Bay Rays. Listen, the Tampa Bay Rays are the hottest team in baseball. They currently have the best record amongst the American League and National League. They currently are 50. They have 54 wins and 27 losses, and have first place in the American League East as we speak today. So a lot of you guys might be saying, why did you pick the Rays as your most surprising team? I'll tell you why. The Rays have been a contender for the last 4 years, and they've, of course, made the playoffs over the last 4 years in the American League. But I was not expecting them to take over the American League the way they are this year. They have been by far the best team in baseball at this particular point of the MLB season, and they're definitely looking like a scary unit. There's somebody there you're not going to want to see down the line in the second half of the MLB season, and somebody you're not going to want to see once October comes for the MLB playoffs. So the Rays have been very surprising to me. I'm surprised they're taking over the American League so far, and this is the reason why that they're my biggest surprise right now. They also have one of the best lineups in baseball this season, with Randy Arozarena. They have Wander Franco. They have Yandy Diaz and Josh Lowe. So this lineup is already playing very well offensively. If they keep this up, I could see the Tampa Bay Rays going to the World Series. So the Rays are doing one hell of a job out there in Tampa Bay right now, especially competing in my opinion, the best division in baseball, the American League East. They have first place to that. They have been the biggest surprise to me in the American League thus far. Which brings me to my biggest surprise in the National League, and that is the Atlanta Braves. So just like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Atlanta Braves are one of the hottest teams in baseball, and they're the best team in the National League. They are currently 51-27 as I record this video, and they have first place in they have first place in the National League East. So after watching their divisional rival, the Philadelphia Phillies last year, they went on a great run. They were a wild card team. They went on a great run in the National League, knocking off the Padres and the National League Championship Series. And then they were just a few games away from being the Houston Astros in the World Series. They saw their divisional rival go on a great run as a wild card team, going even further than them. And actually, the Phillies knocked them out of the playoffs last year. I think they wanted their lick back. I think after that, the Atlanta Braves were chopping at the bit to get back to being a dominant team in baseball. They won a World Series just a year or so ago. They want to get back to that, and they're proving that they want to get back to that this year. They look like a dominant team this year, and they've gotten back to their winning ways, their World Series culture ways. They have a great overall roster, ready to compete and go on a deep playoff run, ready to go on a deep run in the second half of the MLB season, deep playoff run to come October, and is led by my pick to win the National League MVP this year, Ronald Acuna Jr. So they are looking like a dangerous team. They are my biggest surprise this year in the National League. Which brings me to my biggest disappointments in the American League and the National League. We're going to start with the American League. My biggest disappointment is the Chicago White Sox. Currently, the Chicago White Sox are 34-45, fourth place in the AL Central, and their playoff hopes could potentially go up in smoke in the next few weeks if they don't turn things around. They are down bad right now in Chicago. I was not expecting this from the Chicago White Sox, who do have talent on their roster, and it's not looking good right now with them. It's just weird to me that a developing, up-and-coming, rising team in the Chicago Cubs has a better record, playing more competitively than the Chicago White Sox right now. That should not be happening. The Chicago White Sox, with their roster and how they're developing young, talented stars, should not be the best team in Chicago compared to the Chicago White Sox right now. It just don't sit right to me. It don't look right. The Chicago White Sox have every reason to be ashamed of themselves, how they're playing right now in the MLB right now. The expectations of Luis Robert Jr., Jake Berger, Lucas Gilto, all should be stepping up to the plate and helping the Chicago White Sox find success and being a threat in the American League, but they haven't done that. They've been my disappointing team in the American League thus far. And I think it would not surprise me to see by the MLB trade deadline, if they don't turn things around, I think this team could be under a fire sale, getting rid of top talented guys and going into a full rebuild mode if they don't turn things around right now in Chicago. The Chicago White Sox are my most disappointing team. And then, which brings me to my most disappointing team in the National League, and I'm going with the San Diego Padres. It was a debate between them and the New York Mets. The New York Mets have also, I'll say that as an honorable mention for the National League, they have also been disappointing. For all the money that they spent during free agency, they haven't lived up to their expectations. But the Padres just overtake them. They have been the most disappointing team to me in the National League. And overall, if you want my honest opinion, the Padres have been the most disappointing team to me throughout baseball this year. They were my pick to win the NL West, a competitive division that had the Los Angeles Dodgers a part of it as well. And they just were a part of the, like I just said a few moments ago, the Phillies beat them in the National League Conference Championship Series. They were just a few games away from playing the World Series last year. I was not expecting this, and they have not lived up to their expectations this year. As I record this video, they're currently 37-41. Currently hold fourth place in the National League in the NL West. So with three players as talented as Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, all in the lineup, they should be one of the best offensive teams in baseball. And when you do the math on it, spending the price of Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Manny Machado, all three players are worth a total of $713 million, and all three of those players have not lived up to their expectations this year, helping the Padres be a threat in the National League and helping them be one of the best teams in all of baseball. Those three players should be held responsible for the downfall of the San Diego Padres thus far this season. If they fail to keep up with the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles Dodgers and the NL West, I do believe they could potentially miss the playoffs, which could be a huge disappointment with having Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Manny Machado all on the line. If you gave up so much to get Juan Soto last year, yes, Fernando Tatis Jr. was not there during the postseason run last year, but when you have all three of those players all together, you're supposed to be hitting on all cylinders. You're supposed to be one of the best offensive teams in baseball. You're supposed to be one of the best teams throughout baseball. They definitely have not lived up to their expectations. So with all that being said, those are my biggest surprises in the American League and National League. And those are my biggest disappointments in the American League and the National League. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.